And good morning, Tennessee Valley. Welcome to Tennessee Valley this morning on WTNB, Cable Channel 5, Charter Cable Channel 5. It's a Monday morning. It's December 16th, and it's still a little chilly outside, so I hope that you are dressed warmly. You got some coffee, hot chocolate, some warm oatmeal, whatever you need to get the day started. And this full week before Christmas, that you've got all your Christmas shopping done. May make a reference to that here in just a few minutes. You can tell Lou, co-host Lou, Live United, is ready for Christmas. He's got his hat on. Can't touch him because it will fall off. It's not quite Lou's hat. He had to borrow one, but we are both ready for Christmas. We hope that you are too, and we hope that you're going to have a good week. Middle of December, so we hope you have a good rest of the month and getting ready for 2014. Got an interesting show today, but before we get into that, we're going to take the opportunity to talk about a few things that United Way has been involved in this past week or so. You may have noticed in the local newspaper, the Cleveland Daily Banner, that the United Way, we held a report luncheon last Tuesday, I believe. Yes, Tuesday. And we gave 3 special awards at that report, actually a report breakfast up at the Mountain View Inn. And someone very deserving received what we are calling the campaign MVP, since we sort of had a sports theme this year. And the winner of that award was Taylor Howard, and many of us know Taylor. He's been in the community for years and years and years, has always given generously to the community in time and also in financial assistance, and has been very involved with the United Way. So we are appreciative of Taylor, and we wanted to thank him. So he received what we have been giving as the Big Chief, and we called it the MVP this year. So Taylor, congratulations on that. We created a new award called the Emerging Leader Award, and it's for someone who is in the younger years, I guess, or has been with United Way for just a short time. And Andy Williams over at Ed Jacobs and Associates was the recipient of that award. Andy, a lot of us know Andy in our community as pretty darn good golfer, but he is also a very good United Way supporter, and we appreciate Andy. So he received the Emerging Leader Award. And our friends at Ace Hardware, they received the Community Spirit Award. And for those of you that don't know the connection between United Way and Ace Hardware, they have been very supportive over the last few years. They've done a Labor Day weekend sale that benefits United Way. They were very involved in our Day of Caring, or Day of Action, this year. Not only supplying materials for many, many projects, but they had a team that worked over at the Blythe Avenue unit for the Boys and Girls Club, did some work over there. So they received the Community Spirit Award. And for those of you that know Ace and know Randall Slack, or Randy Slack, Randy's gone through some medical issues and on the way to recovery, and we're thinking about you, Randy, so we wanted to mention that as well. A couple of other things before we go to our first break that relate to United Way. This past Thursday, they opened, open may not be the exact term, but they revealed, they previewed, I guess, what we're calling the Learning Trail over at the Greenway. And it's right next to the People for Care and Learning's new restroom facility there, close to the playground at the old First Tennessee Bank building. And it is a small trail that will have some signage on it that will give some information, some tips on things that children and parents can learn from, as the reason we call it the Learning Trail. So if you get a chance, go over and check that out. And we mentioned Christmas. If you're looking for a Christmas gift, we also this week, actually late last week, we had what we're calling our 75th anniversary United Way Cleveland Community Cookbook. And the folks at Check Into Cash Jones Management put this together. And it is a very nice looking cookbook, a lot of nice recipes in it. The cost of the cookbook, $20, but all of the proceeds from the sale of the cookbook are coming back to United Way of Bradley County. And we appreciate the folks at Check Into Cash Jones Management for doing that. It's got a few old United Way photos in there that you might be interested in as well, and some good recipes. So if you get a chance, go by some of the places that the cookbook is available. Let's see if I can remember. Of course, Check Into Cash, United Way offices will both have the cookbook available for sale. Bond Life Coffee, our friends at Bond Life, the Museum Center, the Chamber of Commerce, the Red Ribbon, of course, Nancy Cason's shop, the Red Ribbon. And I know that I'm leaving someone out, but it is available at several locations. So if you get a chance, purchase the book. It's a great stocking stuffer, a great gift that you can give to someone, and hopefully they'll cook something out of it for you, and you'll both benefit. So that is available as we lead into Christmas, and it will be available even afterwards. So a lot of things going on with United Way. We're getting near the end of the year. We hope that if you have not made a pledge, that you do so. You can go to our website, unitedwaybc.com, and pledge online. We are 95% a goal, so we hope to reach our goal before the end of the year. So if you would like to make a pledge, please do so. And we appreciate it. You're helping a lot of folks in our community. Coming up on our show today, hey, it's football season. We've got a couple of guys who think they know, a couple of guys who know sports, and we're going to talk about the bowl games that are coming up. We've got some great matchups, so and some. It'll be interesting to see what they think about if they've got some predictions on some of these games that may conflict with each other. We've got Scott Webb and Robbie O'Brien from the Sports Talk, Sports Drive, I believe, up on WCLE on the Talk, the Buzz, 101.3 FM. So we're going to have them on the show here in just a few minutes to talk about bowl season. But first, let's listen to some of these messages from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
Town Americana, where trucks are big and bold, and a handshake is firm, and your word is gold. Don Ledford Chevy Buick GMC in Athens is a $2,000 drive. Maybe you're coming from here or here, doesn't matter. Buying a truck from Don Ledford in Athens will save you at least $2,000 bucks. Don Ledford Chevy Buick GMC in Athens, a $2,000 drive worth making.
I'll take that drive every time.
At Crawford Pharmacy, we offer custom compounding. Our pharmacists are known for their attention to detail and unique expertise. So visit us at 2260 Chambliss Avenue, Cleveland, Tennessee. For personal assistance, walk right in or come up to our convenient drive-thru. Crawford Pharmacy, serving our community one person at a time.
Kyle Motors, 802 20th Street Southeast in Cleveland, is the place to find quality pre-owned cars and trucks. Kyle offers on-the-spot financing on all vehicles on the lot. Each pre-owned vehicle goes through a complete inspection to make sure each car and truck meets the Kyle Motors standard. Warranty and extended warranties available on all vehicles. Kyle Motors will sell you a car or truck that you will be proud to drive for many years to come. See Tony, Bill, Dale, James, or David and let them put you in your next quality pre-owned vehicle. Kyle Motors, 802 20th Street Southeast. Phone 790-7100.
Are you having trouble filing for disability?
Seems no one is concerned about your pain, the waiting, the denials.
While some representatives will meet with you in court, we will meet with you now to discuss your plan. We'll review with you the same file that the judges will see. Call us now. Social Security Law Center at Logan Thompson.
You're entitled to better.
This segment of Tennessee Valley This Morning is brought to you by Crown Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, located at 511 South Lee Highway in Cleveland and 2120 Chapman Road, Chattanooga. For your next new or previously owned vehicle, make it Crown Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, the better way to buy.
And welcome back to Tennessee Valley This Morning on this early Monday morning. You can tell I've got sports analysts, sports experts, Brent Musburger, and Lee Corso.
I used to like you there, Alan.
And you're Corso. You have to put on. You have to put on the headgear.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
At the end. No, we got Robbie O'Brien and Scott Webb, and is that correct? Sports Drive.
The Sports
Is that what we call
Sports
it?
Drive.
101.3 FM radio from 5 to 6:30. Is that correct?
Monday through Friday.
Yeah,
Monday through Friday. So this being a Monday, we'll hear you this afternoon at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, look forward to it. It's always one of my favorite hour and a half of the day. A lot of fun.
It's an hour and a half show, but it's one of your favorite hours of the day.
Yeah, it is. That's exactly right.
What happened to Scott? I thought you had Scott Williamson on there.
Scott with Big Pink as he's called.
Scott's moved on to bigger and better
Yeah,
things.
he's doing the morning show up there, working afternoons. He's too big for us anymore, us
see.
little guys anymore.
I see.
So
Well,
but
got,
hey,
they got the guys that know.
that's the comment I was going to make. The people that really do know sports are all there now.
And I know that you used to have an Alabama fan on there.
Oh no, he's still there.
Oh, he's still around, Jason?
I was going to say, truth be told, Scott probably bowed out of the Sports Drive after another 5-7 season by the Vols. If you want to know the truth.
Well, okay. You opened up. You opened the door, Robbie. The Vols. We'll get into the Vols here in a second. The Vols had a disappointing season, but not an unexpected season for the first year for Butch Jones. What do we see in the future for
Not
those
unexpected for non-Vol fans, but I think the Vol fans were
guys?
probably a little disappointed.
Well, we expect 10-1 and 11-0 and the Rose Bowl and all sorts of things. But first year, it's got to be better next year, correct? What are we looking? What are we looking at with the Vols?
You say it's got to be better. I don't know. I think it's a process, Alan, and it's this team is. You could see them obviously with the wins. The way they play at home, played pretty well at home. The big win over South Carolina. You could see that they were making progress. They do lose a lot, especially up front on the offensive line. So it's going to be, and they're going to have a big turnover in their roster because of the amount of new kids they're bringing in. I'm sure he'll politely ask some kids maybe to not return as he begins to build the program. So the record next year may be similar, but I think it's about progress and where is the team better in August than they were at the end of the year. This year, I think that's true. I know Robbie Stoops at Kentucky. I think they went through a similar thing where the record. You can't look at the record at this point. You got to give these coaches a year or two to kind of develop their roster and implement their program. And then you can really start to judge and see whether the program is going in the right direction or not.
And I said at the beginning of the year, I thought 5-7 was probably where they would end up, 6-6 if they had an outstanding season. But I think what a lot of people didn't take into consideration is the amount of offensive firepower that they lost last year.
Sure.
I mean, there's 3 guys in Cordarrelle Patterson. I saw him catch a touchdown.
Wow, he's doing great in
last
the
week.
NFL. Yes.
Justin Hunter caught a touchdown.
He caught
last
one
week.
last week as well.
And I think Tyler Bray's still on an NFL roster. So
Isn't he Kansas City?
I think so.
I believe so. Yeah.
So that's a lot of firepower. Even though they only went 5-7 last year, I think a lot of people would probably pin that on coaching and Coach Dooley's staff underachieving more so than lack of talent. And Butch Jones walks in this year, not only first year at the helm, but you're also losing a huge percentage of your offense. And I think we saw that this year, but I think he did, as Scott said, I think they got better every week, and it's going to be a process. I mean, anytime you've had, you're on your, fourth coach in 6 years, I mean, there's going to have to be some time to stabilize, and he's doing a heck of a job.
And really, for Vols fans, I think what you're looking for is you're looking for some stability and looking for somebody to get entrenched and do some work and put in some time and effort and lay the foundation. I know they use the saying brick by brick. That's the thing that Big Butch Jones and his staff has kind of coined, and it is important is laying that foundation. If they can do that and be patient, I think he can have some success. I've always appreciated what he was done. He's been successful everywhere he's been. So can they continue to do that? That's ultimately going to be the decision. I don't think you can judge that next year. Now, that's not saying there won't be impatient Vol fans, and I know two of them that work up here on the hill.
Right.
But I think you got to have some patience and see what's happening, because it is a process. What are these kids going to be like that he's bringing in now 2 years from now, and are they competitive in the East End? If they're not, then I think you can question what's going on there. But I think patience has got to be the key right now.
Football is different than basketball. You can turn a program around in a short period of time with one recruiting class in basketball, but you're talking about 12 to 15 players. When you're looking at 70, 75 player or 85 player, how many you're going to have on a
the
roster.
Vols are on pace to sign about 75 kids this year. So
Well, I'm just glad that Butch Jones used the brick by brick motto instead of the basketball guy, because brick by brick in basketball probably is not very good. Robbie, I'll give you a chance to tell us, how improved Kentucky is going to be. I know it's a tough subject for any Kentucky
tough to be
football.
a Kentucky football fan,
Sure.
especially as long as I have been.
Yes.
But I think I said on our show before the season, very well could finish 2-10 again. May not see any improvement in the wins and loss column, but the thing that Kentucky fans were looking forward to is seeing progress every week and seeing them be competitive. Last year under Joker Phillips, they weren't competitive in hardly any of the SEC games. And this year, with the exception of the Alabama game and the Missouri game, they were competitive in every game. So, Georgia.
Well, and especially at home, and I think that's where you're starting to see. Even when back in the day, 10 years ago, when they were in the middle of the pack kind of deal, they were always very good at home. I mean, you can go back and lose the heartbreaker to LSU, and they've always been able to play well in Lexington, and I think you saw that for the most part this year. The team that was very competitive at home, and I think that's a great place to start. Now you start making sure that your home field is protected. Then you get better and go out and start winning games on the road. And with the way he's recruiting, a lot of people here talk about what Jones is doing recruiting. Well, Stoops is doing a terrific job as well. I mean, they're up there ranked nationally, where no Kentucky football team that I can ever remember has been able to be.
I mean, last year, in just a matter of 2 months, Stoops was able to put together the highest ranked recruiting class Kentucky's ever had, and I think they came in at 39th. Well, right now he's got a top 15 class coming in for next year, and surprisingly, against popular belief, a lot of people thought that once they started losing games, recruits would start jumping ship. But as of right now, they haven't lost one commitment. So if he can manage to hold that together,
that's called opportunity.
Right.
Well, that's great. Bright blue skies ahead for Kentucky, we hope.
We hope.
Hey, I want to get into the bowl games, but before we do that, because I want to sort of separate the minor bowls, and if you're in a bowl, it's not a minor thing by any means. But then we have the BCS bowls, of course, the top five. But the thing that has, I don't know if the word bothered is the word, but these 60 and 70 and 80 point games, that's not college football to me. What is going on in college football now?
Well,
it's basketball
Alan,
scores.
I think
It's basketball on grass.
I think that's the direction that football is headed. All you got to do is look at the NFL this past weekend. More points were scored in the NFL, and under conditions. And we talked about it off the air. Snow, a lot of poor weather conditions, and this was the highest scoring week in the history of the NFL last week. So you're seeing part of that is the evolution of offense and some of the things and what they're doing. But part of that is the way the game is being called and officiated now, where it gives the offense so much more of an advantage, and it's harder and harder. All you got to do is look at the best conference in the country, in the SEC, and look at some of the games and scores this year that you saw that you have never seen this kind of offense. And now part of that was young SEC defenses, but part of that is just the evolution of the game. And playing defense 15 years ago and playing defense this day and age is two completely different things.
Well, the way the rules of the game are set up now, they're only giving you basically a 2.5, 3 foot area where you can actually hit somebody.
And you better not hit them with the crown of your
Right,
helmet there, no matter what.
You'll see that this year. I'd like to see an analysis done, but I've never seen as many ACL injuries this year in college or in the NFL ever. I mean, it seems like every week there was someone else going down with an ACL, and I think that's a direct result of that targeting rule and not allowing to hit above the shoulder and lead with the helmet, because guys are going low to make sure that they're not potentially being tossed out of games and they're hitting guys taking their knees out.
Well, not this past weekend, but the weekend before, we saw the tight end for New England,
Gronkowski,
who you're going to bounce off him if you hit him high anyway. But he had an ACL and an MCL, I believe,
and a concussion.
So going, and
now to go along with a bad back.
Yeah, and forearm and everything else he's had. I think, Alan, that's the direction. Whether we like it or not, some of the physicalness of football. All you got to do is look at Major League Baseball. They're discussing a rule now that may take out the collisions at home plate.
Exactly.
Well, and part of that is from a liability standpoint. They're making sure they're not being liable, and part of that is just player safety. And I understand player safety. But I wonder how far is too far, and I'm wondering if we're slowly crossing that line of making the game turn into something. We appreciate great offense, but we equally appreciate, especially in this part of the world, great defense, and that's what we've been accustomed to seeing, especially in the SEC, and we're not really seeing that this year.
We are moving more toward flag football and wiffle ball than anything to me.
I couldn't agree more.
I mean, you look at the SEC championship game, Auburn and Missouri, shattered the record for most points scored in an SEC title game.
They almost had that record set at halftime.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm seeing these 80-point, and obviously they're not playing the quality teams when they score 80 points that they do when they score less, especially if it's an 80-10 game or an 80-3 game or something like that. And they're not attempting to run the score up. It just happens. You can't stop them. So it's.
And I know we'll talk about it later, but it's going to be an interesting BCS national title game. Looking at the high-powered offense of Auburn with one of the best running games in college football, playing against Florida State, who has the best defense in college football. It's going to be interesting to see who wins out. Of course, Florida State has a high-powered offense themselves.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that one. We'll see if you guys are really SEC fans or not when we get there. The SEC well represented in the bowl games this year.
Well, and they always are. It's the best conference in the country. I mean, that's not changed. The defense, the quality of defense may not be the same, but the quality of play in respect to everybody else in the country is still at the very top. And this conference is so. I always say it's not that their teams are so much better here than they are. You can take Stanford and Oregon and some of these other teams and play in this conference. I mean, Texas A&M and Missouri are just 2 years into this. Missouri's already won a division championship, and Texas A&M, may have been the best team in the country at the end of the year last year. So it's not that good teams. There's not good teams all over the country. It's the depth of this conference. I was just looking at this weekend. We'll get into that a little bit as we start to look through it. I think there's at least 7 games that the SEC will probably be favored in, and that's just because the depth. When you have a team, like A&M who has 3 or 4 losses, that is, playing a Duke team that went to the ACC championship game, but they're probably going to be double-digit underdogs in that game, and it shows you how good from top to bottom this is without a perennial power like Tennessee, struggling right now. I mean, how much better will this conference be if Tennessee and Kentucky and some of those, Arkansas with a new coach and a new system, now you're talking about 10, 12 teams that are possible, that can be bowl eligible in the future.
I'll tell you what, we'll come back from this break and we'll talk about the SEC games because, like you say, there's
a plethora of them.
There are, and now some of them are playing some tough teams as well. So we'll see about that. But we're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about some of the bowls, and then later in the show we'll talk about the national championship and if Michigan has a chance of beating anybody this year. So
now they'll get the quarterback healthy.
That's true. We'll be back right after these messages. Stay tuned.
Town Americana, where trucks are big and bold, and a handshake is firm, and your word is gold. Don Ledford Chevy Buick GMC in Athens is a $2,000 drive. Maybe you're coming from here or here, doesn't matter. Buying a truck from Don Ledford in Athens will save you at least $2,000. Don Ledford Chevy Buick GMC in Athens, a $2,000 drive worth making.
I'll take that drive every time.
At Crawford Pharmacy, we offer custom compounding. Our pharmacists are known for their attention to detail and unique expertise. So visit us at 2260 Chambliss Avenue, Cleveland, Tennessee. For personal assistance, walk right in or come up to our convenient drive-thru. Crawford Pharmacy, serving our community one person at a time.
Kyle Motors, 802 20th Street Southeast in Cleveland, is the place to find quality pre-owned cars and trucks. Kyle offers on-the-spot financing on all vehicles on the lot. Each pre-owned vehicle goes through a complete inspection to make sure each car and truck meets the Kyle Motors standard. Warranty and extended warranties available on all vehicles. Kyle Motors will sell you a car or truck that you will be proud to drive for many years to come. See Tony, Bill, Dale, James, or David and let them put you in your next quality pre-owned vehicle. Kyle Motors, 802 20th Street Southeast. Phone 790-7100.
Are you having trouble filing for disability?
Seems no one is concerned about your pain, the waiting, the denials.
While some representatives will meet with you in court, we will meet with you now to discuss your plan. We'll review with you the same file that the judges will see. Call us now, Social Security Law Center at Logan Thompson.
You're entitled to better.
This segment of Tennessee Valley This Morning is brought to you by Crown Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, located at 511 South Lee Highway in Cleveland and 2120 Chapman Road, Chattanooga. For your next new or previously owned vehicle, make it Crown Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, the better way to buy.
And welcome back to Tennessee Valley This Morning. On this Monday morning, we've been having a nice conversation with Joe Palo about...
well, there's not many conversations down there with Joe Palo that are nice, especially this early in the
A lot of energy this morning.
I noticed that. Well, Joe is, of course, in case you haven't heard, is a big Miami Dolphins fan. And Scott is a Michigan fan, which includes the quarterback who played there.
Well, I mean, yeah, he played.
Who has won a few, championships
NFL
in New England.
I can't even count the amount of division titles he's won.
Right.
Over Joe Palo's Miami Dolphins.
And of course, Robbie is a big New York Jets fan. No, I'm just kidding. Are there any other teams in that division? We don't think so. Hey, let's talk SEC bowl games, okay? I've got some of them marked here, and I want you to tell me what you think. We'll just stay with the SEC. I'm still looking for the Astro Blue Bonnet Bowl. Apparently, that one's gone by the way.
Hey, I remember Michigan played in that puppy one year down there at the Astrodome. Yeah, the Astrodome sure did.
Hey, okay. Now this one sounds like a good game to me. Missouri, Oklahoma State.
To me, it would be my pick for my favorite BCS bowl game. I think you got two pretty high scoring offenses. I think Missouri is better than some people. I still think they played tremendous. They just happened to run into a red hot Auburn team. They're a very good football team. They're better up front than they played, I think, in the SEC championship game. Oklahoma State really should have had the Big 12 championship, had it right there at home. You have to beat Oklahoma in that situation.
There were some rough calls there toward the end, too.
Yeah, but that's kind of been their MO the last couple of years. They play great at times, and then they have that one moment where they let something happen. I call it Clemsoning, because Clemson is notorious about doing that, where they look like the best team in the world, then they'll have 2 quarters where you don't even know who this team is. But I think it should be a high-scoring, very up-tempo, fun game to watch.
Yeah. 2 teams that should be very familiar with each other, considering Missouri came from the Big 12 going into the SEC. So they have both of these coaching staffs have competed against one another. So I think that I kind of agree with Scott. I think that Missouri probably didn't get enough appreciation for the job they did this year. I mean, they very easily, they're within a missed field goal from being undefeated going into the SEC championship game.
Well, it's
hey, listen, I had Pinkel fired in the middle of the year. I was on that campaign. I just thought that was, they kind of struggled early on with some non-conference game. I know Arkansas State played them tooth and nail for about 3.5 quarters. So I thought, man, this is a team that once they get into conference play, but they just seemed to find a little bit of momentum, and they caught Georgia at the right moment, and that just kind of spurred them on, and they've played terrific football all year long. I think it's a team that's very capable of putting up big numbers and being very and having a great.
Yeah,
run.
and this statement that I'm about to make, you may think I'm foolish considering they let Auburn hang 59 on them in the SEC championship game. I think if you look at the season as a whole, Missouri's better defensively than Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
So I would probably tend to give Missouri a slight advantage in this game because they're just as good, if not better, offensively than Oklahoma State, especially with that wide receiver core with Dorial Green.
They got about 4 guys that look like they could play in the NFL right now.
They've got some guys that looks like they could go on Frank Haith's basketball team and make them better.
Hey, we're not going to be able to go through all these SEC games, but this is a good one, I think. South Carolina, Wisconsin.
Yeah, I like Wisconsin. I've always appreciated being a Big Ten guy, and we'll have a brief moment of silence for me being a Big Ten guy. But I love the way Wisconsin plays. They have an identity. They know who they are. They generally play pretty well in these bowl games. South Carolina, to me, has kind of been up and down, and it's really went. The defense has been kind of solid, but as the consistency with their offense, sometimes they look dynamic offensively. Sometimes they struggle, especially in the run game.
Yeah.
Although Davis has had a terrific year running the football for them. Clowney's been an enigma. Where's he been all year?
Yeah.
This is a guy that a lot of people thought were going to be could potentially be in the Heisman Trophy winner, and he's not even going to be.
Yeah.
So it's. I like the matchup. I like South Carolina a little bit more, but I think this is a very competitive football game.
Yeah, I do too. I think this one's a tough one to pick. Honestly, if it had been a Bielema coached Wisconsin team, I would probably go with them because he had things going up there, and he's since come on to Arkansas and he's struggling a little bit. But I just don't really know what to expect out of a Gary Anderson coached Wisconsin team.
My concern is where
coach.
They're one of the top rushing teams in the country, but it's going to be hard to just line up and pound the football consistently against that South Carolina defense. Yeah. Can they throw the ball consistently enough? I thought they were playing the best football in the Big Ten, and then they go out there in the last week of the season and lose at home. They lose to a Penn State team. So, it just kind of makes you step back and say, whoa, maybe they're not as good as I thought they were. But it should be a very good and competitive football game.
Okay, this is a game that injuries is going to cause some problems with Georgia and Nebraska because Georgia won't have their quarterback,
right?
Correct?
No,
Murray's going to be out.
Okay.
To me, and I don't want this as Georgia's been the biggest disappointment. It's not really from anything they've done. It's just, the things that have happened, the amount of injuries. It's hard to fathom the kind of injuries they've had this year. I think at times they've looked like they've been capable of being the best team in the country. That young defense has kind of let them down this year. Nebraska, on the other hand, you just don't know what you're going to get. You just don't know what you're going to get from that Bo Pelini team.
Right.
Some weeks they look like they play pretty good, then there's some weeks where they're just awful. And I saw Michigan State kind of beat them.
Bo's yelling at everybody.
Yeah, I see Michigan State kind of beat them up in Lincoln this year. So I think if Georgia can get consistent play like if they can be that second half team that they were in that Georgia Tech game, and that defense can mature a little. It's bowl time, you get the opportunity to work on things that you don't get to work on during the regular season. If that defense can start to show some improvement, I think Georgia wins that game pretty big.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that this month of practice will be what the doctor ordered for the young quarterback, because he's thrown in there in the fire when Murray went down and had a great second half and led them back to a win over a very bowl eligible Georgia Tech
rival.
team.
We know how rival games are.
Yeah, so I think that would be a big confidence boost for him. And keep in mind they still have Todd Gurley back there in the backfield. So I think with everything that I've seen out of Nebraska just being up and down, and I mean there was even some consideration as to whether Bo Pelini would even be coaching the bowl game.
Hey, he said, "Fire me or don't fire me." Right. He didn't care.
Right, and there's still time.
There's still plenty of time.
Just going to ask you for some predictions real quick on these other SEC games. Mississippi State versus Rice. Is there any doubt?
I don't know. Does Mississippi State have enough offense? Yeah. That's going to be the one concern in that game. That's a Rice team that's won more football games than they ever have. But to me, it's a toss-up game. Can Rice score? Can Rice kind of withstand that rugged Mississippi State defense?
Okay. Yeah, I mean you saw a Bowling Green team go into Starkville this year and almost beat Mississippi State. So they're bowl eligible, but the wins that
by a squeaker. I mean, they get bowl eligible by Bo Campbell fumbling on Thanksgiving Day. So
I mean, I'll side with Mississippi State because I side with the SEC, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if you saw Rice win this one.
LSU, Iowa.
I think Iowa's better than some people think. I just don't think they're athletic enough. I think that defense is pretty good. Mm-hmm. Where I'm concerned about is in Iowa's back end, their secondary against those athletic LSU wide receivers. I think they'll manage the run game kind of bit. They're just not dynamic enough offensively, and I think they'll struggle on the back end. I think LSU, quarterback, if LSU gets quarterback play.
Yeah, it's Mettenberger's out for the game.
Mettenberger's probably going to be out of the game, so if they can get quarterback play, then I like LSU in that one.
Okay. I agree.
Okay. Now, this is a team I like, Houston versus Vanderbilt. I've watched Houston play some this year. They're not bad. They can score. But Vandy's tough, too.
Arguably the second-best team in the American Athletic Conference. Mm-hmm. And they were very competitive this year. I think Kevin Sumlin left a good foundation there. Vanderbilt, I think they've had some quality wins. I think they've caught some people in ideal times. Can they generate enough offense in that game? Because I think Houston's going to score some points. They're going to throw the ball around and score some points. Can they control that game with the run game? That'll be the key in that one. If they can do that, then Vandy will win. If they're struggling there to run the football and it becomes a shootout, watch for Houston.
Okay. Yeah, I think give Vanderbilt credit. This is their second 8-win season in a row. And I read a stat the other day that out of their last 19 games, they're 15-4 in SEC games, and that's second only to Alabama. So they're doing something right over there. And but I agree with Scott. If it becomes a shootout, then I think the advantage goes to Houston. But if Vanderbilt can slow that offense down, Vanderbilt's capable of scoring in the 30s. Mm-hmm. I like a game if it's in the 30s. I think if it gets up into the 40s and 50s, the advantage goes to Houston.
I get the feeling you both take Texas A&M over Duke.
You got to tip your hat to Cutcliffe and what he's done there. Mm-hmm. And my concern in that game would be that Texas A&M defense.
Yeah, I was going to say you're not going to see the same Duke performance against Texas A&M that you saw against Florida State, because Texas A&M has given up points to everybody, including we talked about Rice a minute ago. I mean, Rice scored 40-some
points in that game
against Texas A&M. So I would expect Texas A&M to win. but I would expect it to be a more competitive game.
That one has all the makings of a 4-hour football game.
Okay, I'm going to ask you, just give me the winner, okay? Because we're going to save some time for the big bowls. Texas, Oregon.
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 Okay.
Big.
Miami, Louisville.
Miami.
Louisville. I'll just say Louisville just to be different. I have no clue what Louisville team, that's not the team that was a top 10 team at the beginning of the year.
Okay. Kansas State, Michigan.
Can I ask a question? Is my quarterback going to be playing? If my quarterback's going to be playing, I think Michigan State. Although my concern is Kansas State has won 4 of its last 5 games. They're playing pretty good. Michigan is the exact opposite. They've lost 4 of their last 5. Kind of struggling. If their quarterback plays, Michigan has a great chance. If they got to play one of the young freshmen, then it could be not a happy new year for me.
I'm going to go with Kansas State. Sorry, Scott.
That's
a jab.
And the game, of course, that I'm interested in before we go to the break, MTSU Navy.
Very contrasting styles. It's going to be interesting to see can they defend that option attack of Navy. Just because you're here and you invite us, and I'll be nice, I'll say MTSU. Although I'm not real confident in the pick. I think it should be a good football game, though.
Okay.
I'm going to say MTSU.
Hey.
I think Stockstill's
You can come back.
Well, hey, I mean, I can leave now if you want.
No, one more. Georgia Tech and Lord, I forgot who they're playing. Mississippi.
In Nashville, against Ole Miss.
Ole Miss.
A month to get ready for Georgia Tech off. They've not been tremendous although they did wear out USC last year. I think there were obviously more issues going on with USC than that. Mississippi is I think they're on the verge of being one of those teams that can compete in the West. I don't think they're quite there yet, but I like them in this football game.
I got Ole Miss.
Okay. Tell you what, we've got 5 games I want to talk to you guys about, and one of them's a national championship game. So we're going to take a break. We're going to come back and talk a few more bowl games and see if these experts are really as smart as they think they are.
Hey, those are your words.
That's a loose term.
Well, they both picked MTSU. They got to be pretty smart. So we'll be back right after these messages. Stay tuned.
Kyle Motors, 802 20th Street Southeast in Cleveland, is the place to find quality pre-owned cars and trucks. Kyle offers on-the-spot financing on all vehicles on the lot. Each pre-owned vehicle goes through a complete inspection to make sure each car and truck meets the Kyle Motors standard. Warranty and extended warranties available on all vehicles. Kyle Motors will sell you a car or truck that you will be proud to drive for many years to come. See Tony, Bill, Dale, James, or David and let them put you in your next quality pre-owned vehicle. Kyle Motors, 802 20th Street Southeast. Phone 790-7100.
At Crawford Pharmacy, we offer custom compounding. Our pharmacists are known for their attention to detail and unique expertise. So visit us at 2260 Chambliss Avenue, Cleveland, Tennessee. For personal assistance, walk right in or come up to our convenient drive-thru. Crawford Pharmacy, serving our community one person at a time.
Town Americana, where trucks are big and bold, and a handshake is firm, and your word is gold. Don Ledford Chevy Buick GMC in Athens is a $2,000 drive. Maybe you're coming from here or here, doesn't matter. Buying a truck from Don Ledford in Athens will save you at least $2,000. Don Ledford Chevy Buick GMC in Athens, a $2,000 drive worth making.
I'll take that drive every time.
This segment of Tennessee Valley This Morning is brought to you by Crown Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, located at 511 South Lee Highway in Cleveland and 2120 Chapman Road, Chattanooga. For your next new or previously owned vehicle, make it Crown Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, the better way to buy.
And we're back with more Tennessee Valley this morning. We're calling it college football this morning. And we have...
I'm just getting ready to put some headgear on here.
That's right. That's right. What is that elephant head doing back there? But we have Robbie O'Brien, Scott Webb. My name's Alan Mincy. I'm your host. And we've been talking some of the smaller, minor bowls, if you want to use that terminology. Now we're going to get into the big boys. We got 5 bowl games that we want to talk about. We want to leave enough time to talk about this national championship game. So we got a Rose Bowl, a Fiesta Bowl, a Sugar Bowl, an Orange Bowl, and the title game. So let's take just a small amount of time to talk about 3 of these bowls. And I'm sorry that one of them is a Big Ten game, but the Rose Bowl, Michigan State, Stanford. Michigan State looked good.
Yeah, they did. I mean, Michigan State looked good in beating an undefeated Ohio State team in the Big Ten championship game. Really, it's 2 teams with similar styles of play.
Yeah.
I just think the advantage goes to Stanford in the fact that I think they're probably a little bit better offensively.
They're a little better. I think they're a little better offensively, and maybe a little more used to being on that stage. Mm-hmm. But I think if you talk about my dream matchup this year, I was hoping that there was a way for Stanford and Alabama to play, just because I think Stanford's a very good football team, and I love the way they play.
2 old school football.
Just physical football teams. You don't have to worry about 40 and 50 points being scored in those games because they're going to hit each other and it's going to be physical. Michigan State is similar to those teams. I don't know if there's as talent. They're obviously not as talented as Alabama, but it should be a very hard-hitting, competitive football game. Look for a low-scoring game in the 100th Rose Bowl. It's hard to believe.
How about that pick?
I like Stanford, but in a very close game. This one to me is like 21-17, something along those lines. 4th quarter game.
I like Stanford. I think they're one of the better teams in the nation.
And I'm going to take Michigan State because they.
Good for you, because I am not a Sparty fan.
I'm sorry. Well, you're a Michigan fan, but I think they showed that they've got some quality play,
especially on the defensive side. That was that 4th quarter they put up against. I know that Ohio State gets a bad rap, but that's still a pretty good football team, and they really put the hammer down when that game was on the line.
Yeah. Speaking of Ohio State, Orange Bowl, Clemson versus Ohio State. Which Clemson team's going to show up?
That's to me, that's question 1A. Which Clemson team is going to show up? Is it the Clemson team that played Georgia and looked so good in some of those games, or is it the Clemson team that gets absolutely destroyed at home by Florida State? That's the kind of, is it the Clemson team that gets 70 points hung on them in the Orange Bowl a couple years ago, or is it the Clemson team that beats LSU last year in the Chick-fil-A Bowl? That's Clemson. That's why I think their fan base, they must drive them nuts because they have NFL guys everywhere, and they don't. You don't always get the potential. You see the potential, but you don't always see the ceiling with them. Ohio State, I think Clemson has more. I think Clemson can win this game. Mm-hmm. I have no clue. If I had to pick, I'd say Clemson barely, but part of that's just because I don't like Ohio State.
Yeah, I'm with Scott. I mean, it depends on which Clemson team shows up, but I believe that Urban Meyer is a very good football coach. Mm-hmm. As much as maybe SEC fans would hate for me to say that, and I think that going 24-1 in your first 25 games in Columbus.
That's not too bad.
I wish we were.
Regardless
24.
of who's on your schedule. So if I have to pick, I'm going to say Ohio State rebounds nicely and comes up with a close win over Stanford or over Clemson.
It should be a very entertaining game, though. That should be a good game.
Well, I'm picking the Ohio State band. I think they're the best in the country. How's that? Baylor, I think they've already scored in this game.
Yeah.
But Baylor versus Central Florida in the Fiesta Bowl.
I think Central Florida is a terrific story. Mm-hmm. There's some talent there. The team that played South Carolina very close competitively, went up to Louisville, won a game. Struggled a little bit last week in the cold weather in Dallas when they played SMU. A great story. This Baylor team can really pour some points on you. And they have a defense that can kind of slow that Central Florida attack down. I like Baylor in this game, and this is a double-digit win for them.
Yeah,
I think.
I think this is the least compelling of all the BCS matchups. I mean, not to take anything away from Central Florida, they've had a great season, had some good wins, but I just think Baylor's got too much firepower on offense, and it'll be a track meet. And I think Baylor wins easily.
Okay, sounds good. I can't go against Baylor myself. Okay, the 2 biggies, at least for us in the SEC. The Sugar Bowl on January 2nd, Alabama and Oklahoma. Is there any way Oklahoma beats Alabama?
The way they beat it's the Alabama that showed up and played Utah a couple years ago. If it's that Alabama team that's disappointed and frustrated from not being in the national championship game, there's a chance. I mean, nobody gave Utah a chance. If that's the case, they have a chance to beat Oklahoma. I think this group is better than that. I think they have great senior leadership. Yeah. I think they show up and play well. Oklahoma kind of backs into this game. Really kind of unimpressed with what they've done this year. They get waxed by Texas in the shootout. Baylor beats up on them pretty good. They find a way to win a game in Oklahoma State. I think it had as much to do with Oklahoma State as it did Oklahoma. So I think Bama's just going to roll Oklahoma.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you alluded to the senior leadership, and it starts with A.J. McCarron. I think that he's not going to let the last chapter of his story at Alabama end with
back-to-back losses.
With a bad performance in a Sugar Bowl. So I expect Alabama to regroup and win convincingly against Oklahoma.
Does McCarron have a future in the NFL?
I think he does. I mean, I think the guy that you alluded to earlier, if you compare Tom Brady and A.J. McCarron in college, very similar.
Okay.
So I think that in the right situation, I think that he could be.
Now, I don't think he's a top 10 pick.
No.
But you don't have to be a top 10 pick to turn out to be a terrific pro. There's a lot of free agent guys and things out there that have had great success. I think he's going to make somebody a very good. They're going to find out that he's a better quarterback than people really have given him credit for being. It takes more than just lining up there with, they got all this talent, but you've got to be able to do some things on the field yourself.
Well, his leadership skills are also
awesome.
Also there. Okay, BCS title game, January 6th, last game of the season. Florida State versus Auburn. I don't know how to pick this game. Auburn has amazed everyone all year, and do they have another miracle to pull out of their back pocket? Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I agree on paper. This game's a very difficult one to pick. Both have high-powered offenses. I think the advantage defensively would go to Florida State. But Auburn has shown at times this year that they can get stops. It's hard for me to get past the fact that they've won games when they were all but dead. Mm-hmm. I just think that there's something to be said for having the luck to be able to pull those. It's almost as if they are a team of destiny, and I just don't know that they won't win this one. If you look back at when they won with Cam Newton, I can count 4 or 5 games. It came down to the last possession. I sat there and watched one of them in Lexington where they kicked a field goal in the end zone that I'm sitting in to win it at the buzzer. And there was 3 or 4 other games like that.
Alabama should have been up 40 at halftime in that game.
Mm-hmm. So if for no other reason than that, I've just seen too many teams have luck along the way, and that tends to lead to something bigger. I guess that is enough for me to say I just think Auburn's got it going.
So you're picking Auburn.
It's hard for me, and I may change my mind before we get to the game. I reserve the right to change my mind. But on Monday morning, December 16th, right now I'm thinking Auburn's just got too much going their way.
Scott?
It's hard to argue with any of that.
Yeah.
They have been terrific, especially the last month of the season. They've, when you go to Texas A&M, you find a way to win that game. Obviously, they really played well in the Georgia game. The miracle finish kind of offsets that. For 3 quarters, they absolutely dominated that football game. Now, it's not Georgia's a banged-up team, but they found a way to win that game. Obviously, the Alabama game speaks for itself. They found a way to win that game. If this game is close in the 4th quarter, you've got to like the situations they've been in all year. Florida State's not played in a tough game all year long in terms of a 4th quarter game. So if this game is close, those kids know how to go out there and play in those type of situations. But one of the reasons why Florida State has not played in close games is they are immensely talented. Jimbo Fisher has done a terrific job of stockpiling talent. They've got a quarterback who is playing at a extremely high level and looks like he is definitely going to be a future #1 NFL selection. They can score points. They can play defense. I mean, they've taken some, and the ACC is not the SEC, but they've taken some good ACC teams and have absolutely destroyed them. Other than the BC, outside of the BC Boston College game where they went up there and it was a shootout for a half, they have put teams away by halftime. So that, to me, that says that they are a terrific, well-coached, disciplined football team. And if they can do those types of things, find that balance like they've been able to do and give Winston time to throw the football, if they can do that against that Auburn secondary, which is definitely the weak point of that defense. I like Florida State a little right now. I like Robbie. I reserve my right to. I reserve the right to kind of make a further, a deeper analysis and look at it. But early on, when I looked at it, I liked Florida State probably a little bit over an Alabama team as well for that same reason. They can take advantage of that secondary, so it should be an outstanding football game. But I like Florida State.
And one thing that I think that we overlook sometimes in trying to analyze the BCS National Championship game is that 28 days off. Which team manages that 28 days off better? And typically, the advantage goes to the defense over the offense because the offense is a little bit more rusty.
Yeah, and the Oregon Auburn game was a prime example.
Right.
Those were two extremely talented, high-power offenses that really struggled to get out of their own way because of those types of offenses are built so much on timing and precision and doing those types of things. So you can get a little rusty at that, and especially with Oregon.
And that could be advantage Florida State if that plays out that way.
Okay. So we got a Florida State.
No, I said Auburn now.
He'll say Auburn right now. I think Florida State's going to win the game. It should be a good one, though.
Then we're going to have to break this tie, and I'm not going to do it.
All right.
But we've got somebody here in the studio that's going to do it. So Tate, come on over here. hey, come on.
Here, sit down right here.
Sit over there. Okay, now you don't have a microphone on, so you're going to have to talk a little bit louder, okay?
Okay.
There he goes. Who's going to win the game? Who's going to win the title?
Auburn.
Why? Because your dad said so?
Because they got Trey Mason and Hubbard. And yeah.
And Marshall?
Yes.
Very, very talented offensive team.
Okay. Looks like we're picking Auburn. I'll go with Auburn too.
Yeah.
War Eagle.
Guys, War Eagle.
But I reserve. But Tate and I both reserve the right.
And if we had another 30 minutes of the show, Scott Webb would go on his
Out of my-
rant
my-
about
yeah.
how SEC fans just root for the conference.
But we don't have 30 more minutes. We're actually out of time. So we finished up with our bowl predictions, our bowl game program, and you guys can take what you heard with a grain of salt because
I would, yes.
You never know. You never know. These things can, anything can happen. But we appreciate Robbie and Scott coming on, and Tate. And be sure to watch as many of these bowls as you can. Pull for MTSU, okay? And we will see you in a couple of weeks, okay? Bye-bye, everybody. Bye.